Hey guys, welcome back to part 5 of how a Christian becomes a Christian psychic medium. So, in the last video, I'm redoing part 5 because it did not come out right. So, in the last video of this series, I was literally at the hospital where my children passed away and where my overdose began. And I'm going to sum it up. In my book, I put a little bit about it in there, but I was supposed to really do more than what I did. So here we go. I my kidneys started shutting down, and long story short, I could feel and hear other people there, but there were two specific people that were very clear. And yes, I'm outside. I know you see outside stuff. Um, One, I knew who he was. He was a musician, someone I never have, and honestly never will listen to. Not my cup of tea. The other one I had no clue, and it is hard for me to talk about. If you watch the recent video where my mother in spirit saved my daddy's life, you'll hear my daddy just casually talk about it because this happened and it's just part of our life. So there were flames, heat, screams, but I couldn't tell where they were coming from. It was like surrounding me. And this one dude that I knew who he was a musician. So I'm like, what in the world? And it was very quick but very detailed. There was another man there, and I could not understand or comprehend because I didn't know who it was. I was unconscious for 8 days. My kidneys had shut down. I'd been up too long. And I went through rehab, and I went through, working through my children's death and the trauma I had always faced. But this experience really changed my life forever. I already knew God was real. Sometimes my faith was very strong, and sometimes it wasn't, especially when my children passed. But with this experience, that is the day that December 19th, 2001, when I discovered that hell is real. Now, don't run off from the series. I am a psychic medium, and I have learned a lot more from your loved ones in spirit. And I really hope you give me the chance to finish the story. But that is the day that I discovered hell is real. Later on, during, trying to, after I got out of the hospital and went through rehab and did all that stuff, I was at a friend's house who was the only friend that could come to the hospital or come to rehab to see me. And we're sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden this guy comes on a commercial or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was him. And she's like, unfortunately, a few years before that, he was also a musician that had passed away, unfortunately. But I didn't even know who he was. I'd heard the name, and no, I'm not going to put that out there. But that has been a journey in itself. So that was a lot. That was a lot. And later on, a couple of years later, I was with another friend that we were at a bonfire, and we were just hanging out and, just having a good time at a bonfire. And I mentioned it. Well, this friend mentioned it, and then I mentioned something. And he jumped up. He had had a little more to drink than I had. He jumped up, slung his chair, went to screaming, you've been there, you've seen it. Because he had also had a near-death experience that I didn't know about. Something he had mentioned, I mentioned something back, and it was exactly what he had seen. So that took me on a whole nother journey. During rehab, as a matter of fact, my childhood preacher and his wife, we were walking in line, because, in rehab, you're like kids again. And in the office stood my child, because we're in another city, And there stood my childhood preacher and his wife. And of course, she run to me. And all I know is that I've always been different. Really didn't understand being an empath. Seeing those in spirit was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nothing new for me. But I never once thought like I do now. Next door neighbor dog, sorry. And the fact that I saw hell. I always knew, I was taught that there was a hell, but I just couldn't understand how there could be in that way for people that never knew Jesus or never didn't. I was taught a certain way that I didn't necessarily believe because I didn't understand. I didn't understand. So much had happened to me in my life, but when my children died, and my kidney shut down, and the doctor said there was no way, absolutely no way, that before I actually technically and medically overdosed. They considered it an overdose because the situation, I had been up too long. And if you're with me, you understand. I was having nightmares now, I know, just I was reliving my children's passing and the day that I buried both of them every night, over and over and over again. And the doctor said, and the therapist said, and over the the next year, they said it's, not possible to remember anything, much less, tripping out and hallucinating and all that. And that with a near-death experience and my kidney shutting down, that I wouldn't remember that as well. The amount of things that I have learned about the other side since, that's where the series is going to get good. But it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. Clean me up pretty quick, So, if you've stayed this long, make sure and watch the other parts of the series and several parts to come about how a Christian is truly a Christian psychic medium. God bless you.